On today is a very important day, Workers' Day, and everybody's out there. Some people are resting, some people aren't. I'm here to give you information what's happening in the business scene and business world. But our welfare as workers in Nigeria, and of course, its implications on the Nigerian economy, because it's a sane mind that can help be productive. But we're going to talk to some of our reporters in some parts of the country. And standing by right now in Lagos is Dotun Omisakin will be speaking to us on what's happening in Lagos about the Workers' Day celebrations. Good morning, Dotun. Can you hear us?
I can.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us on Business Daily this morning on Trust TV. So can you tell us what's the air like in Lagos as regards this celebration?
So what the airline in Lagos as regards the celebration, it's calm, and because this is buoyed to the fact that there seems to be a relationship between the state government and the Nigerian Labour Congress. I mean the Labour chapter. There seems to be a symbolic relationship with both parties, and it seems to be the fact that it comes from the fact that I'm not speaking for the state government, but from feelers and from my observation, there seems to be an opening here, and so that makes it a little bit not chaotic, not that of trying to press more demands, beyond them, which are not necessary. So it's calm, like I said earlier. So and business are on, and the celebration is just going fine.
Okay. Have you been able to speak to any person, any worker, any resident, to tell you how they feel about the day as a Nigerian?
Okay, so yes, so from the state government, I mean from the state government workers, so it has been confirmed, from us and journalists that there have been an implementation of the minimum wage, which seems to be a major concern for some states which have not implemented. But in Lagos, that has been done. So, and I think the major concern from our own research is, those who are. So let me give an example right now. The women who are sleeping on the on the road, on the street,
okay.
They seems not to be to be included in this
minimum wage,
in that payment net.
Okay,
that is right. So I think that is just a major concern.
Is there a reason for that?
Yeah?
Is there a reason why they seem not to be included in the payment net of minimum wage?
So a lot of them are not direct, even though they work with the government, but they are not directly employed by the government.
Okay.
They are more of contract staff. So I think it's just that, and those. Well, I wouldn't want to just jump on them, just quickly on the matter, but it seems that their welfareism is not adequately taken care of.
Okay.
From observation and their explanation as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Dotun, for that update and happenings in Lagos as regards the Workers' Day celebrations.
Thank you. Welcome.
So that was Dotun Omisakin in Lagos State talking to us about what's happening there. Now, joining me in the studio to further discuss these issues and more is Dr. Samuel Owoseni. He's a sustainable revenue growth and human resource expert. Thank you for joining us this morning on.
It's a pleasure having me around, and happy Workers' Day to every worker out there.
Yes, thank you. Happy Workers' Day to you too. So now you've heard what Dotun said, and just as I was saying earlier in my introduction in the program, the implications of workers' welfare. How do we expect these women now in Lagos State to come out and do their jobs properly if they seem not to be taken care of properly?
Obviously, though we may not be able to ascertain the work or the kind of contractual agreement they have with Lagos State government, nevertheless, casualization or contract staff is something that needs to be looked into. because that is like a modern slavery, all right? You're not going to be captured in what is expected. The welfare that is entitled to or is due to you is not being captured alongside too. And of course, they get paid peanuts. Some are being paid like 25,000 or thereabouts. Where we talk about minimum wage of 70,000, not even enough. So most times one had to really look at the contractual agreement they have with whoever outsourced this with the state government and get to see what's really brought about such casualization, but not really, but notwithstanding, one would not expect such persons to really be happy, considering the fact that welfare is not taken care of, and also what's expected of them as they take home every month is not commensurate with what is the reality on ground.
All right, so now this brings me to the conversation of the organized private sector or even the private sector and the laws of the minimum wage. I keep asking this. When the government says the new minimum wage is this, does it not cover the entire country, or is just the government implementation for just government workers?
Well, normally it should cover the entire country because we're talking about workers here, all right? That comes from the federal to the state to the local government and also the private sector as well. But what we see, especially for most of the states, in Nigeria, the states and the local government do not cover the 70,000 minimum wage. And we see some of them still paid as low as 30,000 per month, and even some even less than that, especially the primary school workers, right, and some of the local government employee in many of the states across. In fact, most of the states across have not been able to implement, except for a few that have been able to do that. And we are even complaining today that even the approved minimum wage of 70,000 is not even enough, considering the reality that we're facing now. Because the economic challenges, the welfareism of individuals, and also how to really take care of their families and all the rest cannot really meet up with what is even being proposed as the minimum wage. And I think I heard recently that even the NLC is proposing of increasing that alongside too. So if we're talking about increasing that, and some people are still under 30,000 minimum wage, then I wonder what that will be for them to sustain their livelihood and also to make them get to do other things that's expected of them. So it's really just, one can only imagine it because it's just not sustainable for anyone.
Okay, so while we're waiting to speak to other reporters in other parts of the country, we'll continue the conversation. Let me just give a background basically to it. So the May 1st Day is an International Workers' Day, or May Day, and when countries across the world recognize the contributions of labor and reflect on the state of their workforce. Now, in this country, Nigeria, the occasion is not only a celebration of the efforts of millions of workers, but also a sobering reminder of the significant challenges that we continue to face and the economic consequences those challenges bring to us. Now we have a minimum wage gap. Yes, some of the people still, some states are still at the 30,000 minimum wage of 2019. We're talking about 70,000, which we're still saying is not enough, as you've heard from my guest speaking. And we're saying it's widely inadequate. Soaring inflation, we see that everyday currency devaluation, and of course the rising cost of living keeps diminishing the value of this minimum wage. And of course, again, job insecurity, casualization. A significant number of Nigerian workers, particularly in the private sector, are employed under casual or contract arrangements with no job security, benefits, or legal protections. And I think we're going to look into the program now per working conditions. Many workers lack access to healthcare, safe work environments, and proper insurance. In several cases, salaries are delayed or unpaid. I'm sure a lot of people can really resonate with that. Now, pension problems. Retirees often face bureaucratic delays and mismanagement in accessing pension funds. The contributory pension scheme still excludes many informal and lower income earners. And of course, our mental and health well-being. While the National Health Insurance Scheme, NHIS, exists, coverage remains limited. Mental health is also an overlooked area in most Nigerian workplaces. At times people can actually have a burnout, can be depressed, can, not be in the right frame of mind. And if you're not in the right frame of mind, you can't deliver your job. You're the HR expert. Why do we have some sort of, will I say, a pullback or some sort of hold when it comes to mental health in Nigeria?
Well, I think most organizations or most employer or captains of industry tend to pay lip service to the welfare of their staff. You know, most times we see them budgeting millions of naira and dollars for product optimization, advertisement, and all the rest, and never, most times, make the staff welfare a priority. All right, and of course, for a sustainable business revenue to really keep coming for an organization and make your business to in such profitable manner, you need to have the engine room that drives these policies, processes, and procedures to be well oiled. And that is the workers itself. So sometimes you see them making a whole lot of demand on workers that is not remunerated properly. And of course, among other things you've highlighted there that are really deficient or not even available at all, and you expect them to make magic or to produce miracles. How does that really happen? How does that really work? Now, when a worker is really well remunerated properly, of course, there is this job satisfaction. There is increased productivity, ordinarily, because obviously the staff is really so happy doing his job. There's customer service, you know, customer experience is increased because obviously with job satisfaction, the staff has that energy, that enthusiasm to work and to deliver best services. And more important, there is this work retention as well, because of course we get to see brain drain today. People are really going out in the name of Japa because they're looking out for a place where they have a better working environment alongside. So invariably, this really has a whole lot to do on their mental health, because obviously when they are not happy and they have so much things to really worry about itself, they can't give their optimum even at their respective offices as well.
Wow, so basically everything is connected, everything is, so my health, my well-being could. Let's go into the economic implications of poor welfare, poor worker welfare. Now, workers are not just employees, and they are also consumers, contributors to the GDP, and key drivers of national growth. When their welfare is neglected, the broader economy suffers. Now, how do we mean? A few highlights is here. Lower productivity, he said that already. Disengaged, overworked, and unhealthy workers produce less. Poor welfare leads to absenteeism, low morale, and inefficiency, all of which reduce economic output. Now, limited consumer spending. When workers earn only enough to survive, they can't spend beyond essentials. Now, this depresses local businesses, slows demand, and hampers economic circulation. Brain drain. Again, Japa, like you just mentioned, poor working conditions have driven many skilled professionals, especially in healthcare and tech, to Japa that leave the country. Now, these loss of talent diminishes Nigeria's capacity for innovation and service delivery. Human capital deficiency, failure to invest in training, healthcare, and fair employment practices weakens Nigeria's global competitiveness and labor market adaptability. Now, social unrest. Poor welfare breeds frustration, strikes, and protests, disrupting productivity and deterring investors. You've heard me reel all that out, and you've already said some of these things already. We can see that it's beyond just saying, we can't pay salaries now, or this doesn't matter. You have to come to work regardless of how you feel, whether you're good. This has an impact on the economy, as we've seen. Now, how would you, let's come back a bit and go back. How would you, as a HR expert, assess Nigeria's current state of workers' welfare?
Well, if I may be very sincere about this, I must really say that it's really very low, very poor compared to contemporaries internationally. You know, currently Nigerian GDP per capita is about $1,000 plus, all right, and it's currently ranked 167th in the world. That's a very, very low position to really be. And of course, when you compare Nigerians' welfare regimes and also what is expected to be given to them in terms of all that you reel out, we find that Nigeria is really lagging behind as compared with other organizations or other countries internationally. So invariably, if you're expecting to get the best result itself, I must say this clearly here, that Nigerian workers are very, very industrious, they are very intelligent, and they're very energetic. But nevertheless, you can't expect someone to really bring out his or her A game in an environment where it's not supportive. All right? You don't expect them to do miracles when you, on your own part, is paying lip service to staff welfare. Now, I've seen organizations where, of course, they call us in for consulting and the rest, and they want to grow their revenue by so percentages. And I say, okay, what do you have for the staff as per the welfare? What motivations do you really have for them to deliver these figures you are bringing in? And then they start scrambling around and say, oh, we didn't think much about it. And I said, then you expect this to be driven by individuals and staff, but yet there's no clear-cut, arrangement on how the staff will be motivatedly sustained, all right, to really bring out these figures every single time. And what you tend to really bring out thereafter is what penalties, disciplinary actions if they don't meet up target and the rest. And yet you don't go back to see, have I really been able to do my own part to train and retrain these staff to give them the best welfare that is expected? Their remuneration alongside, is it paid as at when due? Do they get motivated and remunerated for exceptional service or exceptional staff that goes over and beyond what's expected? These are not there. You see the ladies, the maternity, sometimes as I mentioned, or I was really talking to a lady the other time and said, you know what, I don't want to have a staff that's above 28, 29 years for female. Why? Because they will go into giving birth and getting married. And of course, we don't have, provisions for someone that will have to take 3 months, 6 months for maternity leave itself. So these are stuff that you need to really look at.
Wow, so even your gender and your age and where you are in life can actually be a problem to get hired or keep a job in this country.
Exactly, because most times when we get, brief from some of our clients to do recruitment for them, and they give us some of these conditions. Okay, let me give an example, right? I was talking with one of the clients a few days ago, and he was saying, no, I want you to help me recruit a sales rep for XYZ alongside, but I don't want these people from these states. I'm telling you,
Tribalism too?
Yeah, okay. Because obviously there's stigma, attached to some specific state based on the ladies or the clients, experiences and the rest. And also said, I don't want people of this age range. All right, which of course I mentioned about because they get married, and of course the husband will start requesting for attention, the family attention, the in-laws attention, and the rest. When we have to nap, and after saying all these conditions, they now said, okay, what I can give to them is also social amount. And I said, no, what? With all these conditions you put forward and also this job function alongside this, so you can't still pay minimum wage. So how do you expect to get a worker that will fulfill these your outrageous conditions and yet produce the best result expected at a wage that is lower than the minimum wage? And I said, well, I'm not sure I'm going to really be part of it, because as an HR person, I have also duty to uphold the dictates and the tenets of what the HR policy entails. So I told her, this is what I can advise you to really get to do to expect the best result. Because again, I understand if I get to a staff that will meet up with that, the next thing is you'll be expecting the staff to perform KPIs, appraisals, and all the rest. And expect the staff to start doing so much for less. So I said, well, we need to really look into this itself and begin to sanitize some of these business owners and organized captain of industries on the need for them to be intentional about staff welfare and then close all bottlenecks that will make productivity not to be as efficient as expected.
All right, so I know you talked about it earlier, but maybe we should go a bit more into it. How does, inadequate welfare affect the productivity and the economic growth of a nation, especially Nigeria? Now, in this country, we have over 70% of our economy run by the informal sector. So people are not even hiring through HR personnel. They just put, this person is wanted, apply within, all those things. How could we make these things help us? Because we need the economy to get better. And if I'm not feeling up to it, really, I don't know.
Yeah, well, what you're saying is actually true. I did a research one certain time for an organization where we did a paperwork, and then we talked about the effect of motivation on staff performance. And you'll be surprised that as little as a little, almost infinitesimal motivation for a staff bring about corresponding increase in terms of performance of such staff. And I came up to inform the business owner, and I said, you know what, you can see how little changes in just the staff welfare brought about this kind of result that you're expecting. All right. Now, looking at the informal sector itself, which of course, you mentioned, contribute a whole lot in the workforce itself. One, we need to begin to do a whole lot of advocacy, sensitization of these individuals. Well, we do a whole lot of this in the SMEs and the MSMEs gatherings we tend to organize and also participate in. But more needs to be done in that regard, because then, SMEs are always profit-driven. What they want is just to see the bottom lines, increasing at all times. But most times they forget about the fact that some of these staffs need to be given the best and also need to be trained properly for the job function they have been assigned to do. So if that is not put into place, it's just like, running around the circle. And of course, we're not going to get the needed result as expected. Then what happens is you're going to have a toxic work environment where you begin to churn out orders churn out orders to staff like as if they are robots. So invariably, I think there's a need for us to have a synergy. There's a need for us to have more advocacy, more enlightenment for the informal sectors itself, for captains of industry, the business owners, the entrepreneurs, on the need for them to really, first of all, understand that the staff drives the whole overall growth of the business itself. And not only the growth itself, is sustained growth. Because again, business can grow within a short period of time. And if the staff that drives that growth are no more there, or they are not being retained, then you can just expect the growth to be what? To be for a short time. So we need to continually engage them and let them begin to see the figures. Let's begin to compare apples for apples, compare notes with what's obtainable in developed countries as well. And then we begin to take it more seriously, and then we begin to see better results coming out from that itself.
Now recently the NBS we released about unemployment rates and whether it's gone up or down, or it's there. And one of the questions I have is, if improved labor conditions, improved welfare for staff, can that in any way impact and reduce underemployment and unemployment?
Well, if I may answer that, I would rather say directly no, but indirectly yes.
Okay, how?
What I mean by indirectly yes is because obviously when business runs sustainably in a profitable manner, of course they will scale up. And when they scale up, that means there are more job openings for more people to come in. All right. So invariably, one will always expect that if the business owners, tend to really pay beyond lip service to staff welfare, all right, it will definitely affect the profit margin itself. And when profit margin comes in, then they can then establish more businesses outside their current place of jurisdiction, and of course open more branches, and of course create more employment possibility for more persons or more workers out there. So invariably, underemployment and underemployment, or whichever way we get to look at the English itself, all right, can really be looked into indirectly if staff welfare is taken more seriously. Okay. All right, and what more importantly, seriously in the sense that when the staff, giving their A game, we get to see more productivity, and of course we get to see scaling up of businesses, which provides or produces more businesses, and of course more jobs to be available as well.
Okay, thank you. Now joining us from Kano State is Abdulaziz Ibrahim to tell us what's happening in the state with celebrations of the Workers' Day. Thank you, Abdulaziz, for joining us on Business Daily this morning.
Okay, good morning.
So can you tell us what's the atmosphere like in Kano?
Okay, I'm at the Sani Abacha Stadium where the May Day celebration is ongoing. I can tell you that the celebrations actually witnessed a high turnout here of the various workers' unions in Kano State. And I was able to discuss with some of the union representatives, like the Nigerian Union of Teachers and the Union of Pensioners, and also the Amalgamated Union of the Public Corporation and Civil Service Technicians. So from what most of them are saying, it's actually kind of mixed reaction, because for some of them, they're talking about they're happy that the minimum wage has been implemented here in Kano, unlike it is in some states where it's yet to be implemented. Then the pension.
Hello, Abdulaziz? All right, we seem to have lost him. We'll try to get him back to give us more on that information, on what's happening in Kano and the Sani Abacha Stadium. Well, you've heard that again. It's come up again, minimum wage. I think apparently that's the theme for this year's celebration here in Nigeria. So, and what can we do? Because even the 70,000 naira is not adequate.
Yeah, we just have to be very sincere about it, because most times you see a whole lot of people are talking about it, and when something becomes more consistent, that is what is in the heart of everybody. We cannot pretend about the fact that this is really biting hard on several persons, and most times you get to see that even a chunk of the money is now used for basic essentials, food, shelter. In fact, sometimes you get to see some organizations like some which I really consult for, had to tell the staff to come to work like 3 times in a week, because they can't really sustain the salary they're paying, cannot sustain the transportation fare. All right, and the organization is not ready to increase the salary of the staff well enough to really be able to meet up the 5 times a week work days itself. So invariably, this is, if we get to ask 5 workers today, I can surely bet with you that 4 of them will be talking about the minimum wage. about the fact that they need more to be able to meet their basic essentials. If you cannot even meet your basic essentials, how can you talk about even saving or trying to have project and the rest alongside too? So that being said, a whole lot of people are talking about the same thing. Go through the north, south, west, and east. Everybody is saying the same thing. More needs to be done. In fact, when the minimum wage argument started, the dollar was about 300 or 400 to 400 naira to $1. The fuel price was around, is it 200 naira per liter? And now everything has gone 4 to 5 times more, and yet the minimum wage has not gone for 5 times more. All right, so invariably, some of the states, like he said now in his report, that there are some states has not even still implemented the 70,000 naira minimum wage, and yet the fuel expense, the cost of living has gone up astronomically. So how do they meet up? So it's really, really a very, very excruciating period for workers in Nigeria currently, and I believe the government we see a whole lot more. They need to do a whole lot more, both the federal, the state, and also the local government alongside.
Okay. We're also trying to reach Abdulaziz to tell us what's happening in the Sani Abacha Stadium in Kano. But while we're there now, what are the hidden costs to businesses and the economy from casualization and poor morale?
Well, the overall cost is quite expensive, all right? Because naturally, you get to employ someone in. And you give the person your product line, you give him the model of operations and all the rest, and yet you put the person on casualization. Okay. All right?
Just hold that thought, please. Abdulaziz has joined us back again. Abdulaziz, thank you for joining us back again.
Okay, thank you.
So as you were saying, the union leaders, union reps rather, were airing their opinions on the Workers' Day.
Yes, some of them were talking about being happy that the minimum wage has been implemented here. Kano, especially the Nigerian Union of Teachers. Okay. And then I also was able to talk to the pensioners, and they said as regards welfare that they had an increment in the minimum pension by the state government, and also that the backlog of gratuities that has been owed for a very long time was paid to some of their members actually. Not all of them have been cleared, those that have been owed their gratuities. However, it's not all positive reactions from them. A number of them also had things to talk about the high cost of living being an issue, which has made some of the increments actually not have the desired effect in their financial bearing. Yes, so a number of them have these concerns. And then also in Kano, there is a concern about the salary deduction with those who are working in the state civil service. And we know that the Kano State Governor, Abba Kabir Yusuf, had about to try to address this issue of unauthorized salary deduction. And quite recently, the committee which was tasked to do this actually made some findings of some ghost workers, over 200 of them, and some that are on the payroll, yes. And all these are issues that have been taken care of. So just as I said, it's kind of mixed reactions here at the Sani Abacha Stadium, where there are a number of positives, but there are also a number of concerns. One of the concerns raised by the NLC chairman for the state was that in the state employment, there are still a number of casual workers, which they believe that by international labor standards, that's something which is frowned against. So they appealed to the government to try to address this issue and see if they can absorb many of these casual workers into the full payroll of the state civil service. So that's some of the issues that were raised here.
All right, thank you so much for that update, Abdulaziz Ibrahim in Kano. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
We're back again. Casualization, casual work. It seems something just keeps bringing us back to that whole conversation. So again, back to what you were saying earlier, the cost of casualization and poor morale.
Well, naturally, for business owners and entrepreneurs, you tend to save costs by outsourcing that and having contract staff, because invariably they are not being held back by pension, need to pay health insurance and the rest. And of course, at any point in time, based on the efficiency and the decline in the work rate of an individual, they can easily let the person go off. All right, which of course make it like a modern day slavery. All right, people had to work in a place for 9 years and yet nothing to hold in, nothing to show for it, for their pension, for their gratuity and the rest itself. For the employers, all right, and also business owners, it's like a plus for them because they tend to save a whole lot. And of course, all they just have to deal with the outsourcing firm, which of course they on their own part can begin to plow that as that resources as part of the profit that they tend to really, declare at the end of the year, which of course I feel needs to be frowned at the more. I think the labor union need to do a whole lot more, especially in the informal sector, in the private sectors as well, because this is more prevalent there. And of course, more needs to be done to really sanction. Maybe we could just get 2 or 3 persons as scapegoats, and of course, pay good compensation for those casual workers itself. Because again, how do you go to work in the morning where you...
There's a sector I know that thrives on casualization.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who have increased their SMS charge this morning. The banking sector thrives on casualization.
I read a report a few days ago about a client or an individual that worked with one certain bank for 11 years.
Yes.
And just like that, it was laid off with nothing to show for it. So it's really, really very, it's so discouraging. Naturally, you can't even give your best when you are not sure of job security. You could just wake up one day and the lifestyle you are really enjoying or you are trying to really enjoy with your family can just go off like that overnight. So that doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense and that has a way of affecting people's mental health and even productivity. That's why I said I think the labor union needs to do more, about this, all right, and also make deterrent or make a scapegoat if I have to use that, but that may sound very harsh. 1 or 2 of those organizations that are doing that itself, and of course pay big compensations. There are laws that are backing this already. Let them begin to take this to the industrial court and let's begin to pursue this effectively. I believe.
Another thing again about going to court at times is the pace at which it goes. At times you just get discouraged. Yes, you might get your justice, but the pace at which it goes, you might actually get discouraged. Now, that's the Nigerian labor laws. Are they doing much to protect the Nigerian workers' welfare?
I've read the Act itself, and I think the labor law is robust enough. Even though I believe that it needs to be updated and reviewed at every point in time. But the problem I would really say in this sense is implementation and compliance. Now, one of the things the labor law found out is casualization.
Okay.
But is this implemented? All right? Is that compliance well enough for this to be put into place? I know Nigerian workers are not demanding for too much. They just need basics itself. And I think the labor law covers this basic. If this basic can be implemented, of course, we get to see a lot of people more, being excited about all that they needed. They just asking for their basic salary, just give them pensions and all the rest. While we still appreciate the effort of the government so far, all right, at least 30 to 70, we still appreciate that. We still ask that the other state government that have not done that should please do that immediately. Nevertheless, I still believe that, the money that is spent on frivolities can be saved for the welfare of Nigerian workers, all right? It's not enough for us to say you're trying to save money by removing subsidies and you're building up a whole lot of gigantic product that is running to billions of dollars, yet the people that drive the economy, all right, that drive governance, all right, and your governance is rested on their shoulders are not being given what is expected. So I think we need to balance it out. While we expect that the government must provide all these other amenities alongside, so I believe the people that are behind the force itself that drives the governance need to be looked into, and not to save money from A to be planned into B without necessarily giving commensurate amount to the Nigerian workers.
Okay, so now I have 2 questions for you for us to round up. What welfare innovations or trends should Nigerian companies consider adopting?
All right. That could really take us into a whole lot of conversation.
But you have to give it to us.
But let me just summarize that itself.
No, 1 minute or so.
I would just ask they just do the basic that the labor law provides.
What are those basics?
Right?
Some of them don't know.
Oh, but give them that basic salary that is commensurate to their work itself or to the effort they put in any case. All right, stop casualization itself, pay their salaries as at when due, and of course, give them remuneration when it's expected. All right, you can't expect somebody to be in a position for 4 years, no remuneration increase, no position, nothing is added to. All right, and when the person jumps ship to another company, you begin to blackmail the individual itself. So, maternity for the women, all right?
Maternity for the men too.
Well, some countries are already doing paternity.
We do it in Nigeria. Paternity, yes, we do.
Oh, okay. I think that needs to be implemented more then, all right, to see that these are being put into place itself. And more importantly, it's also important that organizations or business owners, begin to prioritize the welfare of the staff, trainings and retraining, right? Motivate them, string benefits alongside too, and even create something as small as a daycare center for the lactating mothers, even in their respective offices as well too, right? And then, give them, sometimes you get to understand that. In fact, I really give kudos to the workers, the women especially, because they have to deal with husband, family, and still work itself. And if the children are in there as well too, they will have to still deal with that and also still make provisions for the basics in the house. So I think women need to be given more attention, more leeway, more leverages as well too, and they need to be understood better. And let us get to hear the conversation from them and provide better.
All right, so just in 30 seconds, so we need to wrap up now. The news is coming up in a few minutes.
Okay.
How can the human resource drive both worker satisfaction and long-term national economic development?
Well, our responsibilities are just 3 or 4 in totality, and that's what we need to do, continually to do advisory role. We play the advisory role, we begin to continue to engage the stakeholders, like we said, sensitization of these basic stuff we talked about, just like what I gave you an example about a client that engaged me the other time with those obnoxious work conditions itself. So we need to do sensitization, we need to engage the stakeholders as well, and also we need to be more fierce about implementation and compliance as well. So I think if HR organizations or body begins to take this role more active, I think we'll get some things put into.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Samuel Owoseni, for joining us on Business Daily this morning on Trust TV. It's been quite very informative and educative as well for us on the program.
You're most welcome anytime.
Now, that's the much we have for you on Business Daily today. It's Workers' Day, and in case you're wondering, you are very, very, very important to the welfare and the growth of the Nigerian economy. As you play your part, we'll show that our employers are listening and they will do their best to equally make your life better and increase workers' welfare. Happy Workers' Day again from us here at Trust TV on Business Daily. Same time, same place tomorrow. My name is Chiamaka Nwafor. Bye for now.